Hi Apartment Therapy, my name is Maggie and welcome to my 320 square foot apartment in Brooklyn. The first thing that you'll probably notice when you walk into this apartment is the mural, which is exactly what everybody who knows me expects to look for anyway. It's a big, bright, slap in the face of color, which is what I wanted. It's a very me mural. I love pink and orange. I have little pops of red, which is something I've always had in my spaces anyway, in little pieces of decor like my rug or pillows. I always have little pops of red. I wanted the feeling in the living room to be excitement. I want to wake up in the morning and feel energized and ready to work. This was a really fun piece to create. Number one, because it's unlike anything I've ever done before. I think that's the great thing about this career for me is that every adventure right now is still new because I've only been doing this for a couple of years. I think a lot of the big murals in my last apartment, like my hallway mural, were very linear and extremely time consuming and extremely tedious. And while it was so worth it to do those pieces, I wanted this one to be more enjoyable for me. I really liked that feeling of the more organic shapes, something that felt softer. There were tons of people over the course of my career on TikTok and social media that hated my space. This is hideous. This looks like a clown house. This is too, I get it. It's not for everyone. Sometimes like these type of shapes and colors are way too much for some people, but it was right for me because it gave me the feeling that I was home. So the mural in my bedroom is a lot more simple than a lot of the things I've done in the past. I wanted something that felt very calming. I wanted sort of a more washed look to it. So I didn't decide to paint the walls in full. I only painted the bottom half of the walls. Mostly I needed the bedroom mural to work around my rug in the bedroom. That's because it's a really special rug to me. I brought it home from a trip to Morocco. I bought it off a really interesting vendor. It's a keepsake for me, and I wanted to make sure that I felt like the walls in there were not competing with the rug, which is so special. When you live in such a small space and the bedroom door is going to be open half the time, you don't want the rooms to clash. You want them to feel like they can work in harmony. So having a simple wall mural in the bedroom when the door is open, it doesn't compete with the loud, really fun and funky mural that's out in the living room. So because I have to not only live in this space, but also work in this space, and the main room is essentially a living space and a kitchen, so I needed to make sure that I had enough space to store all of my clothing, all of my kitchen supplies, and all of my work supplies in the same room. I eventually did find that by going to IKEA and building a custom closet with them. When you look at the square of this apartment, there's one wall, and that's the entrance door and the bedroom door. There's another wall, the back wall, which has the kitchen on it, and then there's the front wall with the windows on it. So the fourth wall is really the only wall that the closets could go against. There was really only one or two wall options where the TV could go. So what I ended up deciding on was keeping the couch in the middle of the space with a drop leaf table behind it, which I had at my last apartment and has become extremely useful. So it's the kitchen on one side, and then right in front of it, I have this area that I kind of consider to be my desk. And then I had one other small table. It's a round table, and I have that in the front corner of the room. And it also ended up having a second purpose, which was to cover my radiator, which for some reason in this weird old New York apartment is about a foot away from the wall. In the first closet, I have all of my tops hanging up, and then on the bottom of that closet, I have all of my shoes. When you move over to the middle closet, I've decided to keep some of my longer hanging items there. I do have a small unit where I keep all of my handbags, purses, belts, wallets, other little accessories and odds and ends, and some workout stuff at the bottom. On the top of that closet, I had enough space for one shelf, and on top of that shelf, I keep lots of decor and entertaining supplies. And then in the very last closet, I have multiple drawers that pull out on the bottom. They're essentially wire frame drawers, and everything in there is work-related supplies. And then on top of that, I have one pull-out shelf, and it has my printer. So I, again, use that for my business. I keep all of my paperwork and lots of tools, like handheld tools like my drill. Again, all work-related supplies. On top of that, completely not work-related, but I have all of my pants hanging on extremely awesome pants organizers. On the sides, I installed a peel and stick wallpaper from Spoonflower, and on the insides of the doors. Again, that's just something that I see when I open them and it makes me happy. Right in my entryway, there's a small corner. I had just enough space to put a little kitchen island that I actually had in my previous apartment, which was awesome. So because it's close enough to my kitchen, I felt like I would just keep my kitchen supplies in there. I have pots, pans, pot holders, and all of that other fun stuff. And in the top drawer, I have lots of general day-to-day supplies like scissors and pens, little post-it notes. And then on top of it, I have a couple of bins and baskets that I have for my general junk collector. I have a little ottoman that I've had for multiple apartments, but the lid of it opens up and I keep all of my canvas bags that I use for shopping, duffel bags that I use for vacations, extra backpacks, things like that. So for years now, I've had these two pieces. They're both white, they're both very narrow, and they're super easy to have as extra storage. They almost fit in any nook and cranny because they're so small. What I have done in the last couple of apartments is really invested in replacing my lights. So I ended up getting this gorgeous light from CB2, and I had to do a little bit of DIY by adding that ceiling medallion. Something about the shape of this feels very in line with my mural on the walls here, so I really love how it turned out, and it ended up just being such a great statement piece in the middle of the room. I loved how the rest of my space was turning out, but I really hated the kitchen. So it really became a huge DIY undertaking. I decided to use a faux wood white contact paper for the cabinets. I have a faux backsplash, and then I have a contact paper on the countertop. The other weird thing that I had to work with was this nook that was built into the cabinet. So I decided to brighten it up with some peel and stick wallpaper from Spoonflower. I thought this one was really gorgeous and kind of fit with the rest of the colors of the space. I bought some plain unfinished wood knobs off of Amazon, and I painted them using some leftover paint that I had from my mural, so I knew it was going to match perfectly. So I had actually seen this trick online from some other people who were doing some rental-friendly makeovers. Before you put down any of the actual contact paper, cover everything in painter's tape, and I use some poster board just to cover more area so that the contact paper is touching the least amount of the wood as possible. This will make it really easy when you move out. When I go to take this off, I'm not pulling contact paper off of wood. Contact paper is actually very strong and often very sticky, can be damaging. So putting something down beforehand that's not damaging, like painter's tape, you'll be much better off when you go to remove everything. So welcome to my bathroom. There was not much to do with this space. It is extremely small. But what I did like about this bathroom was that it's light and it's bright. What I did add into this bathroom was one big floating shelf, which is where I keep all of my extra towels. And then I did some little DIYs for the countertop because I had so many little bottles of hand soap and body lotion and face wash. And so what I decided to do was get from IKEA small plain glass bottles, and then I made labels for each of them. And that just helps make the entire countertop look more clean. I think my style is very warm, bright, colorful, friendly. I really love all of those things, and I try to embody that within all of the pieces that I choose to decorate my space. The warmth often comes from choosing brass hardware instead of silver hardware. My cozy quality comes from a lot of the textures that I choose. So between my cozy furry rug in my living room and all of my pillows that have really nice texture to them, even just as far as keeping blankets out on display as a decor piece instead of something that should be tucked away. Again, I want that feeling of coziness in my space, a place that any of my friends could come over and get comfortable on the couch and watch a movie with me. Like so many people, my career and my life took a large shift when the pandemic happened. I was working in a career that was centered around people being together and having events and parties that could not happen anymore. So a huge shift occurred where I was spending a lot of time in my apartment. To bring this all full circle, I got my apartment featured by Apartment Therapy for the first time. And I had a huge influx of people following what I was doing and seeing the work that I was creating. So I started to work for myself. It was mostly that I launched a new business doing home interior decorating. And as that progressed, I was doing some murals within that because it was an extra skill that I could offer to my clients. But because it was such a niche skill, that was the piece of the business that took off far more than the interior decorating piece. And so I ran with that. I just didn't think that that was a possibility. I didn't think that it was in the realm of possibilities when I first started that business. I thought that interior decorating would bring me more clients and ultimately becoming a muralist is the thing that brought me more clients and brought me more business.